In SQL, CTEs are common table expressions. They're temporary named results, and those are three keywords that can be referenced later in a larger query. So let's look at those three characteristics for a second. CTEs are temporary, meaning they only exist within the duration of a larger query. They're named, so they can be referenced later, and they generate results that can be passed along. They're temporary, they're named, and they generate results that are passed along. And so we use CTEs often because we can take complex queries and simplify them and make them more readable. They're easier to understand. And also they become more reusable. We can reuse component parts, and it can help us with troubleshooting. It becomes less complicated. So we break down these complex queries into simple blocks. And here's how you can think about this. We've got our separate component blocks that are breaking down this complex query. So we can see what one does, determine that we want to reuse another block, and then maybe find how to fix an issue in another one of them. It allows us to take a complex query and break it down, simplify it, and make it more reusable, and so on. So let's try an example of this. Let's say what we're trying to achieve is to identify monthly sales, like quantity of sales by author at a certain bookstore. And so what we've got is a table with books listed in them, where every row is a different book that we sell. And then we've got a table of sales, where we identify the book that was sold, when it was sold, and in what quantity. So to achieve our goal, we might break this down into two steps. The first step might be to join the books and the sales data, join those together so we can see the name of the author, the sale date, and the quantity. And along with that, we might take that sale date and extract the date parts, so we know the month and the year that was sold. That's step one, joining the books and the sales and extracting the date parts. Then in step two, we might do is group the sales by author, month, and year. So we know for each author how much they sold in March, how much they sold in April, and so on. So we can take this two-step query and break it down using common table expressions. So this is what it might look like. And let me talk about this for a second. So what you see in yellow is the first step and the start of our common table expression. We begin with, and then we provide a name, sales with authors. And in this yellow portion, that's step one, we're joining the sales and the books table. So we have the name of the author along with how much they sold and when. And then we're also extracting the month and year from the sale date so we can group on that later. That's step one. And as we go into step two, after the parentheses, we restart a SQL statement, and we're actually pulling from the common table expression we identified up above. We're pulling from step one, sales with authors. That's what it's from. And then we're going to group our data by author, month, and year, and sum the quantity of books. So we've broken this down into steps, and we've used these names to provide some name for our CTE, like how we're going to reference this later. So the official way to describe this is the name of the CTE is sales with authors. We have the body of the CTE and how we use it later, the usage of the CTE down below. Now there could be multiple common table expressions part of one larger query. This is just kind of a simple example of that. And you might be thinking, okay, couldn't we just use a join for this? Like, does this need to be, or, in some cases you could use a subquery instead of a common table expression? The reason is that queries can get very complicated very fast. Here's an example of that. And common table expressions can make the code of the SQL more readable and more reusable. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the subscribe button. And if you're interested in a SQL cheat sheet, you can find one over at codybaldwin.com.